The story is about a young boy named Minato when he goes to live in his grandfather's house in the countryside. The house looked completely normal, but in reality, it is filled with dangerous evil spirits. Without knowing the truth, Minato moves into the haunted house. The reason he never noticed anything strange was because he could only see good spirits, not evil ones. However, the moment Minato steps inside the house, something unbelievable happens. All of his spiritual powers automatically begin purifying the evil spirits around him. Without even trying, he completely cleanses the entire haunted house in an instant. Soon after, a powerful god appears before him. It is a wolf-like mountain god named Yamagami. At first, Minato is shocked by his appearance, but Yamagami calmly explains something incredible. Minato's handwriting itself contains exorcism powers. Yamagami tells him that whenever he writes things like sticky notes or shopping lists, his writing automatically destroys evil spirits. Later, Minato places a wooden nameplate outside his house, unknowingly creating a powerful spiritual barrier that prevents evil spirits from entering. After this, Yamagami starts living together with Minato, and the two slowly develop a funny and heartwarming bond. The once haunted house gradually turns into a cozy and peaceful place. Meanwhile, on the other side, there is a professional exorcist named Saiga Harima, who spends his life fighting evil spirits. But when he meets Minato, he is left completely speechless. Minato casually exorcises spirits just by walking around without even realizing it. Eventually, Harima even starts using Minato's handwritten shopping lists as powerful weapons against spirits. As the story continues, more gods begin appearing, including the wind god and the thunder god. Minato, who still knows almost nothing about the supernatural world, unknowingly keeps gaining new divine powers from them. After receiving wind powers, Minato casually throws a piece of paper at an evil spirit and instantly destroys it. From that moment on, the garden around his house slowly transforms into a sacred divine land that starts attracting gods from everywhere. A heavenly dragon beast appears and instantly causes all the sacred trees in the area to grow rapidly, making the place feel even more mystical and powerful. But while everything seems peaceful, a jealous exorcist secretly places a tracking talisman on Minato, creating a mysterious setup for future events in the story. Minato was already living in his house together with gods and spirit animals. The problem was that Yamagami and the small Marden spirits, Seri, Tarika, and Utsuji, loved expensive sweets and offerings. To keep everyone happy, Minato constantly had to buy things from the market, and little by little, his money started running out. The funny part was that the divine creatures ignored normal food and only liked premium items, which slowly pushed Minato into financial trouble. Later, he went to the market searching for a part-time job. Suddenly, a lucky moment arrived when Minato won first prize in a raffle and received 100,000 yen. At first, he thought it was just confidence, or maybe Yamagami's power, but Yamagami later revealed that another divine beast had appeared in their garden, a turtle spirit named Raiki. Raiki was one of the 4 heavenly beasts of luck, and because of his presence, Minato's luck had suddenly increased. That was the real reason he won the raffle. After that, a cute scene followed where Raiki peacefully appeared in front of Minato. It was revealed that Raiki had once been under the influence of an evil spirit, but Minato had unknowingly saved him while performing an exorcism earlier. Out of gratitude, Raiki gifted Minato some special seeds and told him to plant them in the garden. This actually connected to the moment when an evil spirit had collided with Minato before, which was when the 4 heavenly beasts of luck were created. Minato planted the seeds in the garden, and soon his luck rose to an even crazier level. Suddenly, he received a call from his mother, who informed him that he had won another sweepstake worth around 1 million yen. Hearing this left Minato completely shocked, and he felt deeply thankful to the turtle spirit. This scene basically showed how the divine beasts filled Minato's life with blessings after entering it. A little later, the weather gods Fujin and Raijin appeared, leaving Minato completely stunned. One of them was the god of wind, while the other controlled thunder and lightning. They had been attracted by the purified spiritual energy of Minato's house. Minato offered them food and gifts, and in return, Fujin granted him wind magic. Minato still did not fully understand that he had already gained supernatural powers capable of destroying evil spirits. At the same time, Harima's storyline continued in parallel. He was the exorcist who used Minato's handwritten shopping lists like talismans. Harima was now using Minato's notes and pentagram symbols to easily exorcise powerful evil spirits. Because of this, other exorcists, especially Saishiro, started feeling jealous as Harima's reputation began growing rapidly. Meanwhile, the seeds Minato planted in the garden slowly started growing into a sacred camphor tree. Yamagami then explained that it was not an ordinary tree, but a divine tree that would gather spiritual power. With its help, Minato would eventually become even more powerful. Minato then decided to clean Yamagami's old shrine located deep in the mountains. As he climbed the mountain, the atmosphere felt peaceful and spiritual, almost as if nature itself was supporting him. When he finally arrived, he realized the shrine had been neglected for a very long time. Without any selfish motive, Minato simply wanted to clean the place out of gratitude. Near the mountain, a dangerous evil spirit suddenly appeared. For any normal exorcist, it would have been an extremely difficult battle, but Minato casually wrote another handwritten note. Then, using his newly gained wind magic, he threw the paper into the air. The note flew like a bullet, struck the spirit directly, and instantly exorcised it. After the spirit was destroyed, it was revealed that a sacred Kirin-like beast had been trapped inside it. Once freed from the evil spirit's control, the divine creature peacefully disappeared. This hinted that more heavenly beasts would continue to be drawn toward Minato because he was the one who saved them. Later, when Minato returned home, Yamagami thanked him for cleaning the shrine. Soon after, a massive dragon named Aureo arrived. He was the second heavenly beast. Aureo summoned clouds and rain, and through his divine rainfall, the seeds gifted by Reiki instantly transformed into a giant sacred tree. The garden slowly became an even more divine and holy place, giving everyone a peaceful and relaxing feeling. Later, Harima visited Minato's house again because he wanted more handwritten talismans. This time, he asked Minato to write on business cards so he could throw them like shuriken. The scene was funny because Harima treated Minato like a legendary master, while Minato still believed he was simply writing normally. Harima also asked Minato to draw a square grid symbol that resembled his family crest instead of the usual pentagram. He believed the symbol would also gain divine power. Minato casually drew it without thinking much about it, but the audience could clearly understand that his spiritual power had already reached absurd levels. In the ending scenes, the jealous exorcist Saishiro secretly began investigating Minato. Using a tracking talisman, he managed to trace Minato's location. This moment set up a future conflict because other exorcists were finally starting to realize that Minato was not an ordinary human. He was completely different from normal people, and his spiritual powers were extraordinary enough to destroy powerful evil spirits with ease. The story became even more interesting as Minato's powers continued growing and more gods started getting closer to him. Little by little, he was becoming an incredibly powerful person capable of destroying every kind of evil spirit. The jealous exorcist, Saishiro Ichijo, was an aggressive and rude man. After tracing Minato's location, he arrived directly at Minato's house. He was the same person who had become obsessed after witnessing the overwhelming power of Minato's talismans. His attitude was extremely arrogant. The moment he reached the house, he loudly called out to Minato and almost tried to force his way inside. His real goal was to control Minato and use his powers for himself so he could destroy Harima's reputation and raise his own status. However, Yamagami did not like his disrespectful behavior at all. The moment Saishiro became too aggressive, Yamagami secretly sent him into a dark divine dimension. The scene had a horror comedy feeling to it. Inside that strange world, Saishiro kept dying repeatedly and reviving again and again, trapped in an endless punishment loop. It showed that Yamagami was usually calm, but anyone who tried disturbing Minato would see his terrifying side. Even many viewers described the punishment as swift and shocking because of how protective Yamagami truly was toward Minato. After that, the story shifted back into a peaceful mood. Minato later met the nearby bun shop owner, Ekigo. Ekigo looked unusually cheerful and healthy, and Minato noticed that his condition seemed much better than before. Yamagami then revealed the truth. Ekigo was actually terminally ill. Yamagami had temporarily blessed him with vitality so he could survive long enough for his grandson to become capable of handling the shop. The scene felt emotional because it showed that the gods were not only powerful, but also deeply caring. Meanwhile, Saishiro was still suffering inside the punishment dimension. Eventually, he sincerely apologized and became truly humble. Only then did Yamagami release him. The scene carried an important lesson. Arrogance had no value before the gods. Instead, people needed to remain calm, peaceful, and kind-hearted. Later, Minato casually mentioned that he missed the hot springs from his hometown. The moment he said that, Yamagami, Oryu, and Reiki worked together and created a beautiful hot spring right inside the garden. It became an incredibly wholesome moment. The gods had truly started treating Minato like family. Soon after, another sacred beast arrived, the Kirin. This was the same divine creature Minato had unknowingly saved from an evil spirit after cleaning Yamagami's shrine. The Kirin came personally to thank Minato. At first, he expected Minato to ask for some reward or selfish favor because humans usually behave that way. However, Minato simply said that he helped naturally without expecting anything in return. Hearing this genuinely shocked and impressed the Kirin because he had believed that all humans were selfish. This scene clearly showed that Minato was very different from ordinary people. At the same time, Fujin and Raijin also began changing. Earlier, they behaved more like childish spirits, but because of Minato's kindness and respect, their forms slowly became more mature. Fujin especially noticed that Minato was consciously suppressing his wind powers. The reason was simple. Minato was afraid that his powers might accidentally hurt someone. This scene highlighted Minato's soft-hearted personality because he never wanted others to suffer because of him. That caring nature was the reason why so many gods appreciated him. Later, an emotional moment arose arrived when Minato's mother sent him a message saying that the protective nameplate at their family house had broken. It was the same wooden plate Minato had carved earlier, which had unknowingly been giving spiritual protection to the house. Yamagami explained that the house spirit, the Zashiki Warashi, was actually warning them that the protective energy had run out. After this, a training arc finally began so Minato could properly learn how to use his powers. The Martin spirits, Seri, Tarika, and Utsuji, created a special divine realm where Minato could safely practice his wind magic without harming anyone. The entire place looked visually beautiful, filled with glowing forests, divine energy, and a magical atmosphere. The main focus of the episode was Minato finally starting to accept his powers and learning how to use them for good purposes. During the training, Minato gradually learned how to control the wind. At first, his powers were unstable, but over time he gained better control over both attacks and movement. His growth was symbolic as well because he was slowly overcoming his fear. There was also a funny moment when the Kirin brought a durian fruit as a gift for Minato. The problem was that its smell was so strong that Oryu and Raiki instantly rejected it. All the gods reacted awkwardly, turning the entire scene into comedy. After completing his training, Minato carved another protective nameplate for his hometown house. This time, the spiritual energy inside it was far stronger than before. It showed that his growth had reached a measurable level and that his powers were becoming truly significant. Meanwhile, Harima discovered a mysterious temple releasing a dark miasma. This moment hinted at an upcoming danger and set up the next major conflict in the story. After that, it was shown that Minato had started controlling his wind powers much better than before. He used the wind to clean the leaves in the garden and even made daily chores easier with magic. The main purpose of this scene was to show that Minato's training had been successful and that he was slowly becoming stronger. Later, the Kirin once again left gifts outside the house. This time, he brought exotic fruits, but he still felt too shy to appear directly in front of Minato. By now, it had become a running joke that the Kirin always brought strange fruits that everyone else disliked because of the smell. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When Minato opened the gate, he saw Harima standing outside. Harima arrived looking extremely tense. Usually, he stayed calm, but this time he was genuinely frightened. He explained that a cursed doll inside a temple had turned into a dangerous evil spirit. The situation had become so serious that normal onmyoji and exorcists could not even approach it. The doll had created its own other world, an extra-dimensional space that was incredibly dangerous to enter. Harima specifically came to ask Minato for help because he believed only Minato had enough power to purify the spirit. At first, Yamagami was not interested in helping unless he received sweets. Harima immediately offered expensive sweets, and Yamagami quickly agreed. The scene created comedy while also showing how casually the gods behaved despite being incredibly powerful beings. For the mission, the Martin spirits, Seri, Tarika, and Utsuji, were sent together with Minato. During the journey, the atmosphere remained surprisingly calm and cozy. They ate roasted sweet potatoes and apple pie along the way, keeping the relaxing fantasy mood alive. However, the moment they arrived near the temple, the environment completely changed. The place looked dark and terrifying, almost like a horror scene. Countless cursed dolls were scattered everywhere, and the air was filled with heavy miasma. The entire area felt unnatural. A mysterious crow guided them toward the entrance. Although Minato felt nervous, he still moved forward. When they entered the other world, the atmosphere became even more disturbing. The space no longer resembled normal reality. The walls twisted unnaturally, and dolls kept appearing from every direction. Suddenly, the main cursed doll attacked them. Minato used his usual shopping list talismans and threw them with wind magic, but this time the enemy was far stronger than expected. The doll easily destroyed his paper talismans. The situation became even more dangerous when the doll injured the Martin spirits and captured Minato. This was the first time Minato's powers seemed close to failing. Normally, his simple purification papers could instantly purify spirits, but against this evil entity, they proved far weaker. Outside the dimension, Yamagami sensed the danger and sent divine power to the Martins. Suddenly, Seri and the other spirits entered powered-up forms and temporarily immobilized the doll. Using that opening, Minato directly wrote purification words onto the doll's face. Slowly, the darkness surrounding it began to crack apart. But then another shocking truth was revealed. The doll was not the true source of the corruption. Inside it, a corrupted former god had been sealed. This became an important turning point in the story because it was the first time it clearly showed that even gods could fall into corruption. Minato realized that his normal paper and ink were not enough to completely purify divine corruption. The Martins suddenly remembered that Minato still carried a leaf from the sacred camphor tree inside his jacket, the same divine tree that had grown earlier in the story. Minato wrote purification words onto the sacred leaf. The moment he used it, a divine purification activated, and the corrupted god's darkness slowly began dissolving. As soon as the purification succeeded, the entire extra dimension started collapsing. The ground cracked apart, the walls began disappearing, and everyone seemed moments away from falling into oblivion. At that critical moment, Fujin and Raijin appeared and created powerful winds that safely carried everyone everyone outside. The scene looked visually epic and also showed that the wind gods had secretly been protecting Minato all along. After escaping, Harima felt deeply relieved and repeatedly thanked Minato. Naturally, he also offered more sweets because Yamagami was never satisfied without them. Minato then thanked the sacred camphor tree because its leaf had made the purification possible. At that moment, the anime subtly hinted that the spiritual connection between Minato and the sacred tree was growing stronger. In the final moments, the purified god finally returned to its original form. It was revealed to be Hu, the phoenix, the fourth of the four heavenly beasts. This became a huge reveal because Kirin and Oria had already appeared earlier, and now the phoenix had also joined Minato's circle. It was the most action-heavy part of the story so far, yet the anime still managed to maintain its cozy fantasy atmosphere throughout the entire arc. After that, the story shifted into a peaceful atmosphere again. Spring season had arrived, and Minato's garden looked even more beautiful than before. Because of this, more and more gods started becoming attracted to the place. The sounds of birds, the gentle wind, and the calm feeling of nature perfectly set the mood of the scenes. Hoyu, the phoenix, had also become much more comfortable around Minato. He even started giving singing lessons to small birds, which caused large groups of birds to gather around the house. Minato lovingly called him Torai-san. These scenes showed that the divine beasts were gradually starting to see Minato as a close friend, and Minato himself looked genuinely happy spending time with them. Meanwhile, Harima and the other exorcists were under a lot of pressure because evil spirits and strange portals had started appearing in different places. These were not normal portals. They were known as abandoned divine realms, sacred spaces left behind by gods after humans stopped worshipping them and neglected their shrines. If an ordinary person accidentally entered one of these realms, they could become permanently lost. Yamagami and the twins, Fujin and Raijin, warned Minato to return home quickly and stay away from suspicious shrines. There was also an important foreshadowing moment where strange voices in the wind seemed to warn Minato, although he could not fully understand them at the time. It was revealed that the voices actually belonged to wind spirits. Later, while Minato and Hoyu were out shopping or simply enjoying a normal outing, they came across an old abandoned shrine. The place looked completely neglected, filled with broken structures, overgrown plants, and a heavy negative atmosphere. Suddenly, a dimensional portal opened and pulled both Minato and Hoyu inside. The moment happened so suddenly that Minato did not even get a chance to react properly. Hoyu even transformed into his true phoenix form to signal the other gods for help, but the portal still absorbed them both. After entering, Minato found himself inside a completely different divine realm. The place looked dark, dusty, and abandoned. Wooden boxes were scattered everywhere, and the air felt stagnant and lifeless. It was obvious that the god of this realm had been inactive for a very long time. While exploring, Minato eventually discovered a sleepy and lazy goddess casually resting inside the divine cave. At first, he was shocked and found her mysterious, but later it was revealed that she was actually Amaterasu, the sun goddess from Japanese mythology. This became a huge reveal because Amaterasu was considered one of the highest-ranking deities. Amaterasu explained that humans had almost completely forgotten her shrine, which caused her divine powers to weaken. Because of that, polluted spiritual energy, known as miasma, had filled the entire realm. She asked Minato for help because he possessed Fujin's wind magic. Since Minato naturally wanted to help others, he immediately began cleaning and ventilating the realm without hesitation. Several funny scenes followed where Minato cleaned the divine realm like an ordinary worker while the goddess lazily gave him instructions from the side. Using sacred camphor leaves together with his wind magic, Minato slowly purified the polluted air inside the realm. This was important because the camphor tree had already been established as something deeply connected to sacred energy in the earlier parts of the story. As the miasma disappeared, the realm gradually became brighter, cleaner, and more peaceful. The entire moment symbolized how Minato's pure-hearted nature was helping restore divine beings themselves. After cleaning the divine realm, Amaterasu granted Minato a new divine ability, the power to seal and confine things. This became a major upgrade to his abilities because he could now seal unseen or dangerous spiritual entities. The goddess explained that humans used to visit her shrine to pray for their unwanted emotions, jealousy, regrets, and failed dreams to be sealed away. The dialogue felt surprisingly deep because the story connected human emotions with spirituality in a meaningful way. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yamagami and the Marten spirits were desperately searching for Minato. They realized that the portal had led to a dangerous divine realm. Yamagami himself was traveling around and closing multiple portals because if they continued spreading, humans could start disappearing into them. While doing this, he consumed a huge amount of divine energy. Eventually, the Martens managed to locate Minato and help bring him back from the realm. When Minato casually mentioned that he had simply helped a lazy goddess, the Martens became completely shocked because they immediately understood that the goddess was actually Amaterasu herself. Even Minato was stunned after hearing this because he realized he had unknowingly interacted with one of the highest-ranking gods. After that, the mystery of the voices in the wind was finally explained. Fujin and the Martins told Minato that the strange voices warning him earlier were actually wind spirits. Since Minato's wind powers were slowly growing stronger, he would eventually be able to clearly see and hear them in the future. This scene acted as setup for his future power development. Although Minato felt shocked, he was mentally prepared to accept it. Later in the episode, Harema's subplot was also shown. He became involved in conflict with a group of shady exorcists who charged huge amounts of money from people and did not seem trustworthy at all. This hinted at a future rivalry. The funniest and most adorable moment happened near the ending. After using so much divine energy to close the portals, Yamagami became completely exhausted and reverted into a tiny puppy form. Normally, he appeared as a majestic wolf mountain god, but now he looked like a small fluffy puppy. Instead of panicking, Minato simply decided to feed him snacks and sweets until he regained his strength. Minato then began practicing the new sealing ability he had received from the goddess. The power allowed him to seal or confine unseen things, and now he wanted to understand how it actually worked. He experimented on different objects, and wondered if he could seal exorcism powers into items that could help Harema during dangerous situations. However, none of his attempts worked properly yet. The important point of this scene was that Minato was no longer just a boy who could see spirits. He was gradually learning how to use true divine abilities. Another funny but important subplot was also revealed. The house that had been put up for sale kept losing buyers because every deal suddenly got cancelled. Minato could not understand why this kept happening. Eventually, it was revealed that Fujin and Raijin were intentionally scaring or confusing potential buyers so Minato would never leave the house. The gods had grown so attached to Minato that they literally made the house impossible to sell. The scene felt both cute and emotional because it showed how much the gods genuinely cared about him, while Minato had also become deeply attached to them. Later, Yamagami sent Minato into the mountains to collect bamboo shoots. Minato assumed it was part of his training. The forest atmosphere looked peaceful, filled with signs of spring and calm background music. Suddenly, a massive bear appeared in front of him. Normally anyone would panic, and Minato was definitely shocked at first, but Yamagami calmly explained that the bear was not dangerous at all. In reality, it was one of Kirin's servants and had come to help collect bamboo shoots. The bear scene carried symbolic meaning. In most anime, bears usually represent danger, but here the story used the bear to show the peaceful relationship between nature and the gods. Seri even translated what the bear was saying because humans naturally could not understand the language of bears. After collecting the bamboo shoots, Minato became confused about what bamboo gathering had to do with training his sealing powers. That was when Yamagami gave him an important lesson. Because of all the recent events, Minato had become mentally stressed and far too serious. The real purpose of the training was actually to help him relax. Yamagami explained that powers could not be controlled properly through force alone. A peaceful state of mind was equally important. After hearing this, Minato finally understood and started focusing on controlling his powers while staying calm and relaxed. After that, a new god was introduced, Ebisu. His entrance was quite funny because he arrived carrying taiyaki and offered snacks to Minato in exchange for using the hot spring. Ebisu felt different from the other gods because he looked far more human-like. His long earlobes and fisherman-style appearance were references to his traditional Japanese god design. However, Ebisu also casually made a very important comment. He noticed that Minato no longer felt like a normal human. That single line stayed deeply in Minato's mind. For the first time, someone openly said that by using divine powers and living among gods, Minato himself was slowly becoming different from an ordinary human. After hearing this, Minato became visibly disturbed and shaken because the realization deeply shocked him. Later, another adorable character appeared, a black fox named Sumuji. Sumuji served a neighboring mountain god. In exchange for Inarizushi, she gifted Minato a golden peach. The fruit clearly did not seem normal and was portrayed with divine or immortal symbolism. Many viewers even interpreted it as a reference to the immortal peaches from Journey to the West. Overall, the story showed that nearly every god and goddess around Minato continued giving him different kinds of divine blessings and powers. Sumuji herself behaved in a playful and cute manner, but even she indirectly noticed the changes happening inside Minato. Once again, the same idea was reinforced. Minato had become so close to the gods that the line between his humanity and divinity was slowly starting to blur. Little by little, he was becoming different from normal humans. The most emotional moment came when Minato directly asked Yamagami, "Will I still be able to die as a human in the end?" That line revealed Minato's deepest fear. He was terrified that because of the gods and divine powers surrounding him, he might eventually stop being human completely. Yamagami calmly promised him that he would remain human in the end. The conversation was short, but it felt extremely emotional because Yamagami normally acted goofy and relaxed. This time, however, he showed a genuinely protective and caring side because he understood how pressured Minato had become. After that, Yamagami hinted that the secret secret behind Minato's sealing powers might actually be connected to his past. This caused Minato to remember the very first spirit he had seen as a child, the Zashiki Warashi. The final scene acted as setup for the next part of the story and suggested that Minato's childhood memories would become extremely important later on. Earlier flashback scenes had already shown that young Minato was never truly lonely because invisible spirits and yokai were always around him. Even back then, his spiritual energy had been abnormal. Yamagami slowly started realizing that Minato's connection with the spiritual world was very different from ordinary humans. Since childhood, Minato had been able to indirectly see yokai and spirits, even if he did not fully understand it at the time. When he was 5 years old, a Zashiki Warashi spirit lived in his house and treated him almost like an older sibling. This explained why Minato naturally felt comfortable around spirits and divine beings. Later, the story shifted toward the exorcist organization side. Several new exorcists were introduced, including a female swordswoman in a red outfit who immediately caught the attention of many viewers. Harema's relatives and several other exorcists continued discussing Minato's mysterious powers. By this point, almost everyone had started believing that Minato was far from being an ordinary human. Meanwhile, Minato had finally started understanding the basics of his sealing ability. He practiced storing spiritual power inside objects so that Harema could eventually use those powers during exorcisms. However, the biggest problem was that Minato himself still did not understand the true source of his abilities. Because he had spent so much time surrounded by divine beings and sacred energy, he was slowly starting to become something closer to a kami-like existence. Later, Harema appeared again. Normally, he only visited Minato when he needed help with exorcism-related problems, but this time his shoulders and body were filled with stress and pain. Then Fujin and Raijin, the small thunder gods, decided to prank him and accidentally shocked him with electricity. The scene became pure comedy as Harema ended up looking completely burned and panicked. Afterward, Minato and Yamagami went out together for shopping and a small outing. While returning home, they suddenly got pulled into a strange black hole-like space that resembled a deep cave. Inside, they discovered a mysterious weapon completely covered in evil spiritual energy. Minato quickly used his talismans to purify it. The moment the purification succeeded, the weapon suddenly disappeared, and the cave itself started collapsing. Minato and Yamagami immediately escaped from the place before it was destroyed. When they came out, they found themselves near the location where Harema and several exorcists were already investigating. Minato casually greeted everyone and then quietly returned home as if nothing unusual had happened. Meanwhile, some senior exorcists connected to Harema discussed how Minato's handwriting itself contained purification power. It was revealed that an experienced elder had been the first person to notice that even Minato's casual writing could erase cursed energy. That was the real reason Harema valued Minato's handwritten talismans so much. The middle part of the story remained mostly slice of life and comedic. The gods relaxed around Minato's garden and secretly continued protecting him. Minato returned home from the market and complained that he honestly felt like he was going to die because the summer heat had become unbelievably intense lately. He then mentioned that the garden always felt pleasant because it had already turned into a kami realm filled with divine energy. Suddenly, Yamagami stood up and said that he wanted to make the garden even more comfortable. Minato looked confused and immediately replied that maybe he should not do that. He warned Yamagami that if he kept overusing his powers, he would turn back into his tiny fluffy form again. Yamagami casually told him not to worry. After that, he used his divine powers to make the garden even more beautiful and peaceful. Minato watched in amazement as a stream of water began flowing naturally through the garden. Seeing the moving water instantly made him feel calm and relaxed. The entire atmosphere of the garden changed, becoming brighter and far more joyful. However, Yamagami still was not satisfied. He suddenly said that the garden needed something more. Minato honestly felt the place already looked perfect, but Yamagami insisted that it needed a bridge as well. Even though Minato tried stopping him, Yamagami ignored the warning and created a beautiful waterfall using his powers. Minato became extremely happy after seeing it because the garden looked even more magical and attractive now. At this point, the garden had completely transformed into a divine place where different gods casually visited and lived together. But because Yamagami had used too much divine energy again, he suddenly shrank back into his tiny fluffy form. The Marden spirits immediately started scolding him. They complained that they had warned him many times not to overuse his powers because he always ended up in that pathetic tiny state afterward. They even joked that he had become smaller than them. Yamagami simply brushed it off and proudly declared that none of it mattered because the garden looked more elegant than ever now. Minato then asked Yamagami why he was so obsessed with renovating the garden. Yamagami calmly explained that it was simply his hobby and that he wanted to adjust the garden according to each season. Minato pointed out that Yamagami neglected his own mountain while spending all his energy decorating the garden instead. Yamagami replied that true natural beauty came from leaving nature untouched. Minato understood his point, but he still worried because staying in such a tiny form would clearly be inconvenient for him. He suggested that they should eventually help Yamagami recover recover his normal condition, although there was no need to rush. Later, the dragon and the Marten spirits began enjoying the waterfall together. Then a shocking moment suddenly happened. Fish started swimming upward through the water and flying into the sky. Everyone became stunned, especially Minato, because he had never seen anything like it before. Right after that, dark clouds spread across the sky, and another dragon appeared from within them. It turned out to be a friend of the dragon who had appeared earlier. The new dragon had brought many gifts for Minato, including large amounts of sweets and even Chinese tea. The Marten spirits reacted excitedly after seeing all the treats. Minato quickly told Yamagami to eat the sweets so he could hopefully return to his normal size again. Yamagami accepted the sweets without hesitation and happily started eating them. However, even after eating everything, he still did not return to his original form. The scene was presented in a cute and comedic way when Minato casually asked, "Why aren't you turning back to normal size?" Although Minato asked innocently, the hidden meaning behind the scene felt important. The audience could clearly sense that Yamagami was gradually becoming weaker from constantly overusing his powers. However, as usual, Yamagami avoided giving a serious answer and simply turned the situation into a joke. Later, Minato and Yamagami went out together for a market outing. Suddenly, a strange light spread around Minato and started pulling him toward a certain direction. Before Minato could react properly, Yamagami quickly stepped in front of him and stopped the force. Right after that, another important character appeared, Tenko. It was revealed that Tenko was the one pulling Minato toward him. The moment Tenko arrived, the atmosphere instantly became tense. He started teasing Yamagami and implied that Yamagami had become far too attached to humans, especially Minato. Yamagami became irritated and acted as if Tenko had no right to interfere in the matter. Although their conversation sounded casual on the surface, it actually carried a serious warning. Tenko indirectly hinted that becoming too connected to Minato could become dangerous in the future. Meanwhile, Minato could not fully understand the hidden meaning behind their words. His personality was naturally calm, so instead of panicking around supernatural situations, he treated everything normally. That gentle attitude was exactly why so many gods had become attached to him. After that, the story returned to its cozy atmosphere with scenes involving food, offerings, and sweets. Yamagami and the other gods became excited whenever snacks appeared. Whenever Minato prepared offerings for them, the gods looked genuinely happy. These moments showed that Minato respected the gods sincerely without any selfish motives, which was why divine beings treated him so warmly in return. At the same time, Tsumagi and Yamagami kept arguing with each other in a way that almost resembled an elderly married couple. They constantly provoked one another and exchanged sarcastic remarks, making the entire scene feel intentionally comedic. Their chemistry quickly became one of the most entertaining parts of the episode. However, beneath the comedy, a darker side of the story slowly began to appear. Some suspicious exorcists secretly started showing interest in Minato's failed talismans and charms. They clearly did not seem like normal exorcists. From their behavior and the way they spoke, it became obvious that they wanted to misuse Minato's powers for their own benefit. These were actually the same mysterious people who had secretly watched and listened earlier when Minato first met some of the new exorcist members. One of the suspicious exorcists roughly explained that if even Minato's failed items contained such incredible power, then the original talismans must be unimaginably stronger. The next morning, Minato receives a box full of delicious oranges from his mother. However, even after seeing the sweet oranges, Yamagami is still not happy. Minato quickly recalls the time when the mountain fox god Tenko took over Tsumugi's body and defeated Yamagami in a battle, which is probably why Yamagami is in a bad mood. Fortunately, Minato knows how to cheer him up. He offers to buy him some sweets and invites him to go to the market together. While walking toward the market, Minato invites Yamagami to sit on his shoulders so he will not tire himself out. However, the moment they arrive, Yamagami notices a century-old magazine publishing studio that brings back memories from the past. He heads inside to meet someone, but there he sees a tired employee named Toida being strangled by an evil spirit. Yamagami quickly uses his powers to save Toida from the spirit. Toida is shocked to see Yamagami standing right in front of him, which also surprises Minato since normal people should not be able to see Yamagami. However, Yamagami explains that he intentionally allowed Toida to see him. Toida had always been a non-believer who never cared about gods or spirits, but after meeting Yamagami, he finds him not only divine but also incredibly cute. Yamagami learns that Toida is the writer of the sweets column in the magazine and encourages him to continue publishing new articles. This makes Toida extremely happy because he realizes that the mountain god himself has been reading his sweets articles. Wanting everyone in the office to meet the mountain god, Toita calls all the staff members. However, when everyone arrives hoping to receive blessings from the divine god, Yamagami simply tells them to change their next sweets article to focus on smooth, sweet bean paste instead of chunky bean paste. After that, Minato and Yamagami enter an Indian-style restaurant to enjoy some delicious curry. When the receptionist brings 2 menus, Minato becomes confused because she can also see Yamagami. Yamagami reassures him that there is nothing to worry about since almost everyone in the restaurant already has 1 or 2 gods accompanying them. While eating, Minato glances at another table and notices a pair of scissors moving on its own. Yamagami explains that the scissors gained a soul after being loved and used by its owner for a very long time, transforming into what is known as its Kumagami. He also reveals that Minato has its Kumagami in his own house, the wind chimney. Minato then notices that the doorbell does not ring whenever the door opens or closes. Yamagami explains that the bell is also its Kumagami and only rings when a non-human enters the restaurant. From this, Minato realizes that the restaurant serves as a gathering place where gods and spirits come to eat and spend time together. Back at home, the fake exorcists appear outside Minato's house. Seri notices them and immediately alerts Yamagami through telepathy. The fake exorcists, Jake and Ansho, want to steal more talismans from Minato. At first, they ring the doorbell, but when nobody answers, they use a crowbar to force the door open. Suddenly, the door opens by itself. Jake and Ansho assume the homeowner was careless enough to leave the door unlocked and casually step inside. Meanwhile, Minato remains worried because Yamagami is still stuck in his puppy form even after enjoying a feast at the restaurant. As they head home, they notice an elderly woman praying at Yamagami's shrine. Because of her sincere and selfless worship, Yamagami regains his original form and becomes even stronger than before. This reveals an important fact about gods like Yamagami. Offerings alone are not enough to sustain them. What truly strengthens them is the genuine faith and selfless prayers of people. Meanwhile, Jake and Ansho begin to find it strange that the house appears completely empty, with no furniture or signs that anyone lives there. Even more strangely, the inside of the house appears much larger than it should be. Suddenly, dark venom-like creatures emerge, chase them through the house, and swallow them whole. When they open their eyes again, they find themselves outside the house. Terrified, they run as far as they can until they eventually reach a construction site. Jake is completely frightened, but Ansho remains determined and insists on killing Minato before he leaves town. However, before they can do anything, a mysterious portal suddenly opens. And that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.